Phonepe is processing about 1.5 billion UPI transactions a month. It's got about 46% of the market share also when we talk about digital payments. And Phonepe has now decided it wants to give back to the larger ecosystem. What it has launched is a website where you can literally think of it like Google Trends. District-wise, state-wise, you can get various trends when it comes to digital payments. This should bring in transparency. Phonepe, of course, taking the lead and hoping that other players will do the same. Joining me now to talk more about this is Sameer Nigam. Sameer, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us. So Phonepe Pulse going live, where we can literally figure out, which geographies are doing better, which districts have better digital financial inclusion, this, that, and the other. But tell me first, what was the idea behind this?
Thanks a lot, Nandara. Super exciting day for us. So Phonepe Pulse is an idea that has its genesis in, the seed was planted a year ago. We were sitting and looking at all of this data coming in, and there's a lot of discussion happening in the country around data sharing, data availability. And we were talking to a Corpcom team where everyone's asking for questions around, okay, what's your market share? What's the data look like? What's the penetration like? And obviously post-COVID, the intrigue just increased in digital payments. And then Rahul and I were sitting there with the team, and we realized that nothing's really changed in the 5 years that we started or launched Phonepe. I remember when we had actually entered the segment, we were grappling for data around how many digital payments that were happening, how many users were doing digital payments. And to be honest, I think this is a problem that happens across sectors. When young entrepreneurs are trying to figure out which sector to get into, every investor tells you, find the green spaces, find the areas where there's a need, find a product market match. And it's hard to get data. It's not at least in the conventional wisdom, it's not in the interest of private enterprises to put a lot of data out. We've always been a big beneficiary of digital platforms that are open, like UPI ourselves. We've obviously been a very big believer in open platforms, whether it's launching Switch. We did that 4 years ago. We've done stores where we have 20 million kiranas listed. We want to connect as many different businesses as possible. We are a platforms and tech company. And we believe in open networks. So a suggestion came from the analytics head saying we have billions of data points. What if we took all this data, anonymized it, but put it on a map? Like literally, what if you put it on a map? So there was a skunk project in the office where we had this clunky looking map, but even that looked just so amazing that all the product managers and everyone else are feeling really excited by it. So we said, okay, let's open source this. So that was the genesis for Pulse. Pulse is a two-part offering. There's an annual report, which you would have seen, which is more of sort of a state of the union report. It's about 45 pages of information, some very interesting fun facts, demographic trends, category trends. And then there's an interactive website, the part that really excites me. On the Pulse website, you can come in and you can zoom into your district, you can zoom into your state, you can find out how many transactions are happening. We'll be updating the data regularly. Actually, I think every quarter, the audit data goes up there. You'll be able to see which of the PIN codes have the maximum penetration of digital payments in India, how many users, how many transactions. We've given category level drill downs, how many bill payments are happening, how many recharges are happening, how much money transfer happens, how much value of money transfer happens. And we believe that the availability of this data should be able to spawn either directly or indirectly dozens of really interesting projects. Some startup might be able to find that there's a state with very heavy underpenetration of payments, and they may enter. They may compete even, and we'd be happy. There's a lot of government projects to promote digital payments, and we are hoping this will start a nice arms race of people in various states saying, I need to increase my digital penetration in a positive light. Regulators, banks, and others, everyone wants to know how is payments growing in India? And I think this is us giving back, putting 20 billion transactions worth of data out there. It's completely anonymized, but it's raw data as is. So we've not filtered anything. We've not tried to mask any data or massage any data. It is the data.
So, Sameer, I want to go one by one with what all you have said. You know, there's a very pertinent point. At least you'll have information, you'll have knowledge, you'll have data on which are the pin codes to go to, whether it's for government projects or where there's under-penetration, where we're not seeing enough financial inclusion. But, you know, what we've also been hearing about the last couple of many months now is that Bharat is picking up smaller towns. When you go to rural India, you are seeing digital payments pick up. So, prima facie, the data that you have now, छोटे छोटे शहरों में बड़ी बड़ी बातें हो रही हैं.
I think when people see, for example, Maharashtra, in any state, you'll see the top 10 districts by penetration. Mumbai doesn't feature in the top 10 districts in Maharashtra on digital payments penetration by our data. That tells you something. I think the data is going to be so mind-shattering when people see it. I think it's a testament to the fact that tier 2 to tier 4 Indians are adopting technology faster. They've needed it, they want it, and now they have it, and the data is bearing fruit. We've been saying for over 2 years now that nearly 75-80% of our customers are coming from tier 2 and beyond. But until you visualize it, until you see these really large peaks in every state happening from cities, you just don't expect. It doesn't really resonate. Vashim in Maharashtra sees more transactions than Nagpur. There are cities I had not heard of in India that are making the top 20 list. And that's the part that I'm saying, like, this data is so exciting. We're like kids in a candy store because we ourselves never see this on a daily basis because that visualization wasn't there. Once you put it on a map and you start playing around, you suddenly see these skyscrapers, like, wow. We found shopkeepers, in fact, specifically, we found one shopkeeper who's averaging 100 transactions in his shop through COVID a day in a tier 3. It's like the entire community has gone digital. So clearly, I think some of these things have to do with government activation drives. Some of these things have to do with geographical distances getting collapsed and people not having to travel to pay their electricity bills in a small town 5 kilometers away. Village after village is lighting up digital payments. And I think that was actually the key imperative in wanting to give back. I think people, once they see payments data, payments is the holy grail of data. Once they see the way the data is playing out, I think there'll be some very interesting local and state level policy shifts.
I'm still recovering from the fact that Mumbai is not the number one, the destination as far as digital payments goes. I'm still recovering from that. I have to see the top 20 as you're pointing out. But have you also figured out that when you're seeing these digital payments, what is it, especially in the smaller towns, what is it being used for? Is it, for money that may be coming in from those that work in the bigger cities? Is it for government projects? What, have you got that insight as well?
I'm actually just talking about transactions initiated by people in tier 2 and beyond. So these are not the recipients of money. Sure, there's a lot of migrant workers that are transferring money from metros to the inner cities. I'm talking about most of the action happening in those cities. So once people actually have a smartphone and they have data, now they're suddenly thinking, if I want to pay my next electricity bill, I don't need to travel to that billing center. And again, people are transferring or making payments for 10 rupee transactions at a chai shop. People are paying at kiranas, people are paying on the street side thelas, as they call them. People are paying for all sorts of stuff. And it's, to be very honest, it's extremely humbling because when we looked at the data, we spoke to a bunch of the customers. There were some just strange outliers. We spoke, for example, to a truck driver who's paid at over 75 petrol pumps in India. And he actually told us it's turned into a project where he's tracking how many places accept digital payments in India. So he's only paying digitally across all state lines. There's just some amazing trends you'll see.
And I would imagine, that there has been a criticism that the NPCI, for example, doesn't give out active daily users or monthly active users or unique users, if I could say that. Um, will you think that this will now force other companies to also come out with this kind of data? Because if one player is doing it, how can the others not do it?
I'll respond in two parts. I think NPCI has actually been very transparent over the last year, particularly they published monthly data by 3PAP, by bank, success rates. I think they actually have set a very good standard for being transparent. I think others need to follow. That said, they are a public goods company. I think it's unfair to say that every private company must. I think we've chosen why we've done it. I'd love to see more people publish data, but I don't think that it's fair to say that it's imperative that they must. The second thing I would say is, I think again, in payments, unlike other categories, because payments is the railroad on which the economy is standing, I think that the interest in data will be much higher, right? Because if payments is happening, then commerce will happen, food deliveries will happen, so much other stuff happens. So these are activity hubs. Digital payments is a prerequisite, and I think the interest in the data would be higher than in, say, a lot of other categories.
But Sabir, tell me something. You give this fascinating example of, let's say, a truck driver. Can you tell us that what a lot of these digital payments are being used for? One would imagine that the first chance would be if I want to send money to a friend or a family. Then it's usually, do I want to use Zomato or Swiggy to order food? So can you tell us, because now you're able to figure it all out. What is it first being used for?
The first use case for a vast majority of customers is a basic money transfer, whether locally or across state lines, because money movement is primitive, the P2P transfer as they call it. The most common one from there, interestingly, is actually offline payments. The offline payments volume is massive. The third is now mobile recharge. For the longest time and pre-COVID, mobile recharge used to be larger. Offline payments is now larger. Store payments. And I think in part that has to do with the fact that now 25 million merchants accept digital payments in India. Bill payments is number 4 after mobile recharge. Then actually comes your Zomato, Swiggy's, Flipkart's, Amazon's, all the online payments. Because I think e-commerce, all categories put in, is still a sliver compared to the entire offline, tangible, brick and mortar businesses. So digital payments is finally reflective of overall economic behavior.
Now, something else, which you have big dreams for, and you've launched a lot of products. You've now, in fact, got a new insurance broking license. You're applying for to be an account aggregator as well. So when you go across all the pin codes, the smaller towns, are you seeing them look for financial inclusion? Are they looking to buy financial products?
Oh, absolutely. We've been now in mutual funds distribution for a couple of years. More than, I think, 60% of our customers come from what's called the B30 plus or the beyond 30 top cities. In insurance, again, dominant majority of our customers are coming from tier 2 and beyond. I think a lot of myths are going to get shattered in the next 5 years, even in financial services. I think the country set out on a path to digitize India over the last 10 years. Obviously, the geo effect and very cheap data has helped, smartphones have helped. But now with payment penetration being what it is, as long as we keep adding 100, 200 million people to digital payments every year, I think in 5 years, you'll find financial services will also be getting consumed in proportion to where the population's at. The value may be different, but the need is absolutely there.
So, you have products, whether it is to do with insurance, mutual fund distribution, gold. Which are the more popular ones?
Today, by sheer number of transactions, gold is the largest, I would say, also the oldest category for us, but we are now touching, I think, about 8 million customers who've already bought gold. Gold's a product that Indians understand across the board. The second is, again, reflective of just time spent, is mutual funds for us. wide variety of products in there: tax saving funds, liquid funds, balanced funds, equity funds. People are trying a lot of products. I would say I think the younger lot, the millennials, are more experimental, which is good. Insurance is the fastest growing for us, particularly the health products, the COVID products during the pandemic. They've just been exploding. We are, I believe, now the fastest growing insurer fintech in the country. And we're super excited now with this new broking license. We can expand out the number of partners.
I want to also ask you why account aggregator license could be a game changer. But before I do that, Sameer, you've seen the data. You've been building this website for a while, which you will regularly update every quarter. You've given us some mind-blowing stats. Give us some more. I think I'm hungry for more.
Well, I actually want to encourage everyone to try out the website and figure out on their own or on their phone. There's a ton of fun facts in there. I'm not gonna pique your interest anymore. As I said, I think a lot of illusions are going to get shattered when people realize who's transacting, how much they're transacting, how often they're transacting. I'm not going to get into specifics. I'm just going to encourage people to actually go and check out the Pulse website. Go to phonepe.com and check out Pulse. It's a very immersive experience. Just use both your fingers and keep pinching in and zooming in and out.
Okay, so this is my final question now to you, Sameer. Account aggregator license at Phonepe once. Why and why will it be a game changer?
It's a game changer, just like UPI, because for too long, people's financial data has been lying either in physical or digital format with their financial service providers and tax authorities and other government agencies, and not been useful in helping the same individuals get access to better loans, faster financial services, better insurance products, more customized products. So I think availability of all of that data from the financial information providers on a common brokering layer, just like UPI, to any financial information user is a paradigm shift. It is yet another feather in the cap, I think, of the visionaries at the India Stack team. I think this is another incredible open ecosystem play. Why we entered, we love the idea of open ecosystems and being forced to out-innovate people instead of winning because we have artificial modes of access. We'll be competing like anybody else with providing the best services and the best platforms. And we're excited about what we can do with that.
And of course, a really exciting time for Indian Fintech, isn't it? There's so much that's happening, whether it's innovation, whether it's Fintech that are marrying themselves with big tech to launch products, the future of banking. You're seeing large M&A activity, the biggest IPO. Just final comments on the way this entire space is evolving?
It's fun. We are sitting it out as always. I think we like going counterculture. We are having more fun building out stuff like Pulse, building out account aggregator platforms. I think we have miles to go in terms of what we can do to really open up financial services ourselves. It's not day zero anymore. We have 300 million users, but it's the first innings in financial services. So much to do. The markets are exciting. It's always good to have validation for startups that have been around for a decade. Liquidity is an important milestone. Big blockbuster exits and consumer confidence is really good for the Indian startup ecosystem, but not for us just yet.
Sameer Nigam, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for joining us here on ET Now.
Thank you, Nandra. Bye-bye.